allow me to exit the current events of the day. Or maybe I should say current event, because there's only one thing that we can talk about now. Let's move into one of my favorite areas, which is American history, just for one podcast. Last year, 2019, was the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first slaves to America. And the New York Times Magazine did a piece on this, and it was called The 1619 Project. Made a lot of news. A lot of the Democrat candidates at the time referred to it, believed it, promoted it. Beto O'Rourke was the big one. Kamala Harris was another one. The history part of this was fine. The trouble I had with it was their interpretation or their application or where they went with true history and how they applied it. And here's what they said. That the beginning of America was not 1776 with the Declaration of Independence, but it was 1619 with the beginning of slavery, because that's who we are. That defines us as America. It's the essence of our being. That is so ridiculously absurd. Actually, it's a turd bit of history. That's awful interpretation. Listen, here's what they did. They provided a really good, solid history of slavery in America. It was not American history. It was one piece of American history. And by the way, the big criticism of their piece, I can sum up in one word, which is Indians. I mean, these people were here 10, 15,000 years before the first slave or the first European. Most historians say they came over from Asia. They crossed the Bering Strait, which at that time was frozen over. That's that little area between Russia and Alaska. And then, of course, global warming happened, and that melted up there. And so now you got 50, 60 miles of just treacherous waters. And so they were stuck on this continent, which turned out to be pretty good with all the resources here. It's too bad that Native Americans were socialists. Otherwise, they would have been the richest people in the history of the world. But never mind that. Bottom line is, that's not history. And you know what? I read a book on American Indians during our downtime here. Actually, it's on the 5 tribes of the southeastern United States: Cherokees, Creeks, Chickasaws, Choctaws, and Seminoles. But you know what? That book that I read was great history, but it wasn't American history. It was a piece of American history. Understand the difference. I could go on so much more about this. So I want to encourage you in this downtime. If you can't buy a book, you can, download one. You can download from your library, several different places. I encourage you to get a book on history. Get a book about a subject you're not sure about, or maybe you've bought the propaganda that comes out of our colleges, and learn good history. It will make us all better people.